Chair, and I too want to share in the praise being lauded on Deputy O'Cahissy for his far-sightedness in developing and introducing this important piece of legislation. If I've one regret, it's that I didn't have the opportunity to do that myself. It was an area that I've been looking at very closely in recent years, and I have always taken an interest in the approach taken by our comrades in the Welsh Assembly and the Welsh Government in terms of this piece of legislation, which was initiated by colleagues in the Labour Party in Wales. And I know there are a number of people who, as you said earlier on, Deputy O'Cahissy, are present in the Chamber, or in the public gallery, I should say, this afternoon, who have an interest in this legislation and who may have assisted and advised, and that's a good thing. And I want to assure them that for a Thursday bill, having at 1.5 deputies, 4 deputies and a senior government minister contributing to the debate, that is, in my experience, as somebody who regularly contributes to debates on Thursday evening bills and has had some drawn for the lottery, that is a good sign. And I think it is indicative, I hope, of a genuine interest in this legislation and the requirement for this kind of approach to be taken by our national legislature, by this government, and indeed by future governments as well. It was once a given that each generation's lot would be improved in comparison with the generation that went before, that the next generation was always going to be better off and doing better more generally than the generation that went before. But sadly, that's no longer the case. And that's sad. And that is something that we, as a legislature, needs to take more seriously and needs to be more responsive to. And that's not easy. The social contract, that idea that you study hard, you work hard, you make a contribution to society, and you benefit then from all of the rewards that people should be able to obtain in a just, fair and equal society. The idea of the social contract, unfortunately, is fraying for lots of different reasons, and we can talk all day, of course, about the so-called neoliberal agenda and the changes in politics and economic thought and so on of a previous generation and the impact of that. And yes, that, of course, has an impact. And that is, I think, an issue that we all need to be concerned about. Deputy O'Cahissy, in developing this legislation, doesn't need to overstate what this legislation can achieve and what it would be expected to achieve. And I think that's reasonable and that's fair. But it is a contribution, and it's an important contribution to creating a better, fairer, more equal society, and to formalise a process that we don't actually have at the moment. Introduce what is effectively a watchdog, or more appropriately a guardian of the future, put at the heart of government, that would also keep government honest, keep governments honest into the future in terms of our approach to future generations. 8 years ago, and it has been said earlier, the Welsh Assembly passed the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, and under that Act established a commissioner, as this bill seeks to do, to protect the interests of future generations in the development of government policy. The Welsh asked themselves the questions we, I think, must now ask ourselves, and that is, what kind of country do we want to pass on to our future generations? And they decided, as I think it's been said previously, on 7 principles that would guide their new commission. They wanted to create a country for future generations that was prosperous, resilient, healthier, more equal, with more cohesive communities, with a vibrant culture, and a country that is globally responsible. The kind of country, I think, that we all want to see, the kind of globe we all want to see. And to achieve these laudable goals, they asked the new Commissioner to ensure that policies take account of the long term, prevent future problems occurring or existing problems worsening, ensure a collaborative and integrated approach across government departments and state agencies, and to look at the inclusion of all ages and diverse backgrounds in policy making. And while the results since then in Wales have been mixed, the Commissioner has been vocal in calling the Assembly and the Executive to account on the long-term goals of the legislation. And I think that goes to the heart of the point of this legislation. Last year, the Future Generations Commissioner for Wales, Derek Walker, said the country was not making enough progress towards delivering on the promises of the legislation. His annual report can help signpost pitfalls for this country and prevent us from making the same mistakes. That 2023 report points to the cost of living crisis and its impact, particularly in those with low incomes, as having the greatest negative impact on pursuing the goals of the Act. Mr Walker said, and I quote, "This flagship report shows a mixed picture of progress across our wellbeing goals. Some of it is understandable, given the exceptional circumstances we've just faced." And he goes on to say, "However, 7 years have passed since the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act was established, and I'm disappointed that we've not been able to make more progress and for its impact to be felt consistently by communities across Wales." Now, that I know was considered by politicians in Wales to be a fair assessment of where they are at, and a confident government and an executive that would be confident in its own work and its own approach should not fear criticism and informed critiques of that nature. It leads to better policy making, undoubtedly. The establishment of a Commission for Future Generations is an aim of Coalition 2030, an alliance of over 70 civil society organisations and trade unions in Ireland, and Labour certainly subscribes to that coalition's aims, and in fact our entire raison d'etre from our formation, I think, is very much contained in those aims and those ambitions and aspirations. The Coalition believes establishing a commission that safeguards the interests of future generations will help Ireland meet at least one of our sustainable development goals, namely that we meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Coalition 2030 says that the biggest challenges facing our country and our world will not be solved by short-term thinking, and call for what they call cathedral thinking that enables us to plan and initiate large-scale projects which take a very long time to realise and to think about the future in very concrete terms, and not as something that is distant and abstract. Have to make the shift from short-term election cycle thinking to more long-term thinking and planning, otherwise the decline of the lot of future generations is guaranteed. And we did this in Labour by, for example, supporting the establishment by this government, not just the principle but the legislation itself at every stage, the establishment of the Future Ireland funds and the climate infrastructure and nature funds, which will be critical for the sustainable development of this country and to meet all of the challenges that we are only too well aware of. And it is disappointing that there are no representatives here this afternoon from the largest opposition party themselves, who repeatedly tell us that they claim at least to command the support of cohorts of younger people in this country. And I don't think that it is right or acceptable that there isn't a contribution here this evening from the largest opposition party, with all the resources it has at its disposal in terms of the number of TDs it has as well. But this is not about short-term thinking, this is about long-term thinking, and maybe that's why. Because there are some people in this chamber who specialise in tactics and not strategy, who specialise in short-term thinking, to the neglect of the long term, and indeed making some of the sacrifices and doing some of the honest thinking that needs to be done if we're serious about the long term. In September 2024, the Summit of the Future will take place at the UN, as I think mentioned by the Minister earlier on, and it's expected a UN Special Envoy for Future Generations will be created. UN members will be asked to commit to take future generations into account in their decision-making at national and international level. Wales have been pioneers, as I said, in this regard, and Ireland could be the next early adopter by creating its own by creating its own Commission for Future Generations, as envisaged in Deputy O'Connell's bill. Coalition 2030 say, I quote, "We call on the Irish state to be visionary and to think beyond the usual 3 to 5 year political cycle." I and my Labour Party colleagues wholeheartedly echo that call. We urge the Government to establish on a statutory basis the position of Future Generations Commissioner, with a strong mandate to ensure that no actions taken today undermine the sustainable future of generations to come. And we would like to see an Oireachtas Committee for Future Generations and a carrying out of generational tests on those decisions, most likely to have a long-term impact. So congratulations again to Deputy O'Connell, and I wish you every success in terms of the progress of this bill, and the Labour Party wholeheartedly supports this approach.